Hello.
Hello, how you going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I was trying to play the intro music, but it wasn't working, so that worked out fine. Um, all right, I'll do the intro. Hello, warm welcome to the Witches Party. This is episode 4 with hosts Amanda Fisher, Tantric Witch, and Ellen Serena, Wealth Witch, on all things wonderfully woman and witchy. So grab a cuppa and settle in for this week's Witches Tea Party. How are you, Ellen? What's happened
Yay.
this week?
I'm good, gorgeous goddess. How are you going?
Mm. Oh God, I have the biggest, largest cup of tea. I think it's actually a soup dish thing from San
Oh,
Francisco, but it's got a handle on it, so I call it a teacup. And I've got
beautiful.
rooibos and green tea this week.
Oh, nice,
Um,
nice.
how about you? Have you got your coffee again?
No, I'm going with a Lady Grey today. I'm going.
Oh,
I'm
very
going a bit
nice.
posh. Lady Grey with some nice milk and some sugar.
Aw, that's so good. Is that the same as Earl Grey?
No, it's different. It's I can't explain it. Yeah, it's quite a nice drink actually. It's my mum got me onto it a few years ago. It's like a blue Twinings kind of brand thing, but yeah, it's called Lady Grey. So
We say Twinings, darling, in England. Twinings.
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 Twinings. It's like I used to call the river the Thames, the Thames, and all these British people like, it's the
Yes.
Thames.
Well, you would do. That's how it's spelled, right? I know.
Yeah.
English language is just fucked. Right, we do you have a topic that you'd like to focus on today before I pick one from the hat?
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
We'll go for one?
Yep. We'll go
All
from the
right.
topic on the hat.
I'm going to close my eyes this week. I've had such a good week, actually. It's been another massive week.
Fantastic.
Should have prepared for this one. We've got good books and why we love them.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
do
Okay.
have one. I'm just going to go grab this book from my bedroom. Hang on a second. Okay, right. Sorry, I've had this out all week because I've been meaning to read it and I always go to bed too tired and never end up reading some. Um, I'm actually rereading it. I love rereading books. It's almost like watching your favorite film again and you know the lines. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's like, oh, I know this bit. This is a good bit. I'd love to start. I actually like to start off with this one. I had little story of this week. Went to court for the first time. So I've been going through court with my ex for over a year, but because of COVID, it's always been over the phone. This is the first time it's actually been in person. And I've worked through all my kind of fear of, facing this person, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. So I've just got my son here.
Hey, Leo.
Did you say hi? Did you say hi to Ellen? Hey, good
Hey.
boy. And one of the ladies supporting me said we could end up waiting around all day. So I took a book with me, a good old fashioned book, rather than sitting on my phone. And it needed to keep me nice and calm. So it's actually Buddhism for Mothers.
Oh,
A calm approach to caring for for yourself and your children by Sarah Napthali. I'm going to go with Sarah
okay.
Napthali. It's Napthali. It's absolutely
Fantastic.
gorgeous. Yes, a friend of mine actually gave it to me from a Coogee meditation group because she used to run the library, and she said just it really helped her. And yeah, it got some really useful tips in there.
Is it kind of a book that kind of helps you to like? Because I know as a mother, in particular, being a single mother, single mothers, because I find myself, I get quite, if I get too tired or I'm not looking after myself well enough, I can get really agitated and angry and resentful quite easily. Does it sort of have tips in there to kind of help keep your mind calm, or how to deal with your children when they're pressing all your buttons? Is it
Oh,
sort of
absolutely. And the lovely thing is that there's so many stories of real Buddhist mums out there, and they're all saying, sometimes I lose my shit. Sometimes I get angry and I shout at my kids. And it just kind of makes you go, oh, it's not just me then. Because,
Yeah.
when it happens, you just feel terrible. You just feel like, oh my God, I'm the worst mum in the world. And when you know you're not alone, and you go, okay, don't beat yourself up for it. Don't punish yourself. How do we move through this? How can we change this?
Yes.
So it doesn't keep happening. And they've got like, it's a nice, because it's very easy to read. It's a nice bridge between heavy Buddhism theory, where you're in the perfect world, living in a nunnery without kids around, in the everyday practical world of mums having 3 or 4 kids. So it's really
Wow.
nice to it kind of brings those two worlds together, which I think we need.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
There
Because
is,
I
yeah,
see.
go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, because it's interesting, like as women, because obviously we talk about all things witchy and women in this. Like one of the biggest things I think that we've been told as women, that we have to be these, perfect, have it all together, be everything for everyone, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to be this kind of perfect mum, which doesn't exist. And I think, yeah, if you've got those tools that kind of help you to kind of navigate sort of all of that, but taking that pressure off being like the perfect mum, or the mum that doesn't lose her shit, or is always, Buddhist, or like not Buddhist, like Zen and perfect. It's like we're human, and we have our good days and our bad days, and I think, yeah, if you have those tools, I think like these books, which sounds great, I might get this book as well. Just to help you, support you being a parent, because I think it was like one of the sayings one of my teachers taught me once. They said, if you think you're enlightened, get into a relationship. And I think it should be, if you think you're enlightened, go and have kids, because it's like they will fucking trigger the shit out of you. Like I think about my son, and he has brought the best out in me and the worst out in me. And it's like, and even aspects of my psyche I didn't even know existed. And it's like, learning to, and I find that they're your biggest teachers and activators and healers to kind of clean shit out that doesn't serve you anymore. And I think, yeah, so taking that pressure off motherhood.
I know, and especially I remember it's like, I'm ready now, like I've been to all my yoga retreats, I'm awesome at meditating, I'm ready for motherhood, and then you go, no, I want to go back on retreat.
I know. It's like I went to a Vipassana course when I was pregnant, and the lady said, oh, why are you doing this while you're pregnant? And I said, oh, because, I want a calm baby. And she said, oh, sweetheart, this will help you stay calm.
Yes. And that's the thing, like I've gone from, I'd have the luxury of sauntering, that's the right word, sauntering down to meditation on a Sunday morning, sitting in silence for an hour, and then go and grab a chai tea, go for a ocean swim, and then saunter back home. And those days just aren't possible. And I remember feeling like, what am I going to do now? Like, how do I get my meditation in? And in this book, they do say you can catch it within a second. Like if that means it's on the toilet, whether that's washing up, whether that's just, in that tiny breath. And the chapters here have got finding calm, dealing with anger. That's the first chapter I went to. Worrying about our children, creating loving relationship, living with partners is in there, meditating and finding happiness, and losing our self-image, which I think could be a whole new podcast topic.
Beautiful, yeah.
And being humble.
Beautiful. Leo wants to be on the podcast too.
This is new. So this is our first Friday together. So like I said, we managed to get to the gym in time, and we got all the way down to the car from the creche, which is about a 5-minute walk. And then I went, oh, where's your little fluffy cat? So we ran back up there, ran back down again, managed to get home, get the washing on the line. Then he did a poo. And I was like, you're not going to make it back upstairs. We had emergency poo in the garden. And you just think, if it's just me on my own, I'll be sitting here half an hour early. Like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
But those are the real, I'm getting sandwiches ready, getting everything prepared. You just, you cannot explain it to anybody. Like it is like having a full-time job, working in a cafe sometimes. And people look at you like, why are you so stressed? And why, you've only got one child.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, and 2 businesses. Like, when do I ever get time for myself? Anyway, what's your favorite books? I know you have a wealth of.
I love books. I've got so many of them. And one of my favorite actually is I love reading lots of romance novels, like those period romances from like the 1800s, the early 1900s. Like, I don't know. It's like there's some really like fun, just, I don't know, light reading, kind of, a bit raunchy every now and then. But yeah, no, I just sometimes like, so I various between, there's sort of a lot of various genres that I read. But I think like one of the things I'm also enjoying reading at the moment is a book by Ken Honda, who is kind of seen as like the billionaire guru in Japan. But he has this really beautiful book called Happy Money. And I've just started reading that, and I really love the concepts in that book. And at the beginning of the chapter, he talks about how he was at a party and this woman came up and said, "Can I look at your wallet?" And he was like, "Sure." And he's like, "I don't know where this is going." And the woman opened up his wallet and she felt his money and she said, "This is happy money." And he said, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" And she said, "You can feel the energy and vibration around people's wallets and monies and their relationship and how they've made that money, whether it's been through, heart-based service or if it's been through negativity." And it was just a really interesting way of looking at it. And Ken Honda talks about the emotional IQ of money. So he said a lot of our world is focused on the logical ways of hard work or struggle making money, but he said it's actually all about your emotional intelligence and your energy is what creates wealth and attracts prosperity and money and so forth. So he has this really beautiful way of writing it. So I find like if you are, a woman, because women, healers, spiritual teachers, creatives, artists, we have a lot of baggage around money. So I've found that this is a really beautiful book by Ken Honda, Money, that really just changes your whole perception around it, and really coming into a healthy, loving space with creating money and wealth, especially with your soul's purpose and your gifts as well. So I find that's been a really interesting book I'm reading at the moment. Yeah, and he's
yeah, go on. So.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, and he's just got a really, really lovely vibration. He's well renowned, and his teacher was I can't say his name. It's like in Japanese. It's hard for me to say, but he's well known. He's kind of known. His mentor was labeled like the Warren Buffett of Japan. And if you don't know who Warren Buffett was, he was like one of the world's biggest billionaires, big in shares and stock market, etc. Anyway, this Ken Honda's mentor, who's a Japanese billionaire, he actually said the most simple thing that you can do to create more money, more wealth and prosperity is to say thank you for everything every day. So when you give money, you say thank you. When you receive money, you say thank you. You thank the good, the bad, the ugly. You thank everything. And he said that will radically change your life. And so, and I remember reading that probably about a month ago, and I've started then every day now I make that a habit. When I give money, I say thank you, and I also bless it, and I imagine it blessing the workers, their families, their community, because often at time we can feel a lot of scarcity or lack around money and giving and sharing it, but it's through the giving that we open up the circulation. So it's just like, how can you say thank you for what you give and thank you for what you receive?
And it's so true. Like in both of the work that we do, it's all about the gratitude, like that level of appreciation to stay in that vibration. Yeah. And it just attracts more to you. It's so simple. And I've heard that before with the say thank you and say thank you. And when I consciously do it, when someone pays me and I'm like, thank you, like I really sincerely mean it with all my heart. It's like, thank you. Like that's energy that you're giving to me and I really deserve that. So thank you. Exactly. I know I'm giving you a service, but I really appreciate you.
Beautiful. And it's the same when you give, like when you go to pay for a service as well, or you pay for a product or you're shopping or anything like that. It's the same. Yeah, it's like, thank you for this service. Thank you for, like I think about it when I go to get fuel now, I just have a moment of gratitude saying thank you to the truck drivers that delivered the fuel, the people in the oil fields that brought me fuel. Like you start to open up and realize just how many people are surround you and involved in bringing you your everyday goods and services. And we just forget to have that moment because we're all connected energetically. So when you start to sort of send out that gratitude towards those people on an energetic level, and they've even proven this in scientific studies, is that you actually influence their energy field in a positive way, even though they're not on the other side of the world.
And I love this. This is the kind of like head fuck that I try and get across in my videos and on the live feeds is by focusing on yourself, that is for the greater good of everybody, the collective consciousness. So it is in a selfless act, but you have to work on yourself for that to happen. It's a real kind of, people are like, oh, it's, it's really selfish. It's a self-centered approach. And you're like, but it, it's so hard to explain.
I mean, I know, like, I don't know if you've read that one, the Buddha's teachings around the 2 types of selfishness. But I love his analogy, how he explains it. And he says there's 2 types of selfishness. The first type of selfishness is ego-based, where it's about, what can I get out of this? What's in it for me? Fuck everybody else. Like, obviously, Buddha didn't say fuck everybody else, but that's my take on it. And then that comes from the ego. Whereas he said the second type of selfishness is when you take yourself away from the world for a time, you look after yourself, you fill your cup up, you fill up your energy, so then you may be of better service to other people. So it's like being selfish. There's like a healthy selfishness and then a toxic selfishness. And there's one that I think even Abraham Hicks talks about it, that it is of paramount to your health and well-being to be selfish at times. It's because if you're not looking after yourself and taking care and nourishing and nurturing and and you're constantly give, but you're not allowing yourself to receive and nurture yourself, then you're going to end up burnt out. So sometimes, you've got to be a bit selfish and set healthy boundaries and just do something for you.
Yeah, and that comes back to the whole concept, like we've gone around in circles here, that we are one. It's like we are part of the divine one love God source, but we feel separate, and that separation is actually an illusion.
Yes.
Oh, well, I'll take off from your romance novels. That surprised me, but it's like, I love that.
If you looked at my Kindle right now, I've been on a spree because I found this really great author. I love her writing style, but her name's Tessa Dare, and she's like in New York best time selling author in romance books. And so if you're listening to this podcast one day and you enjoy periodic romance novels as well, Tessa Dare's a really fun read. And then there's like Sophie Jordan and a couple of others. I don't know. It's just like sometimes it's nice just to read mindless stuff or just a fun story. Sometimes I think we can get caught up in all the serious stuff and forget to enjoy our reading, basically.
Sorry, there's a drama here right now. I really love. Have you heard of Jean M Auel? She's a famous author.
No.
You want it bright? Sorry, we'll just get you into toddler world right now. So he starts to cry because the iPad brightness isn't very bright, and we have to just make sure that it's brighter. You just
My son does that with the volume. It's not loud enough.
Of all the things that we have to worry about in the world, right now the most important thing to him is the brightness of the iPad. God. Is that okay? Does that satisfy you now? Okay. Peace has been restored in the world. Thank goodness. The brightness settings on iPads that I never had when I was his age. Right, he's settling down. Sorry, everybody. He settled down with his sandwiches now. Jean M Auel. So she's an award winner, and one of her books is actually the first book is made into a film. This has nothing to do with anything that we do, but kind of interrelates as always. It's based in, she's renowned for her depth of research into cavemen times. So it's completely fictional, but the detail that she goes into, how they make the weapons that they use, and like literally as if this is how we used to live. And I don't know how, I think I picked them up from a secondhand bookshop one day, and I've just ended up with a whole series on my bookshelf. And the first film had Daryl Hannah in it, who was a mermaid. Hannah Daryl.
I'm hopeless when it comes to actors' names.
She's Clan of the Cave. I think Clan of the Cave Bear is the first one. It's not a very good film. The books are much, much better. But I don't know why I'm in love with the character. She's so headstrong. She's part of one group of cavemen clan. Like, because we used to have a very wide forehead, and it was all based on sign language rather than verbal language. And then there's these tall, thin people who are they must be kind of Westerners. Back in those days, and also because in the Ice Age they used to be able to travel across land a lot easier because we weren't separated by the tectonic plates were all joined together. And yeah, so then of course they've got longer noses and a less forehead, and then they're using actual language. So she gets banished, and she actually has a child and has to leave the child behind, and go and live on her own. And it kind of focuses on her because as a woman as well, you go, what would that be like to live on your own? You've got to be self-sufficient. You're not allowed to even hunt. So luckily she did learn how to hunt. And it goes into also the shamans, like when they would take kind of psychedelics and do a soul journey, and what that would look like. And then of course she meets someone else from another tribe. Oh, and she has a tiger, a tiger cub as a pet, and a wolf. And she can speak to horses. So it just takes me into this fantasy land of like, I'm her, I want to be her, she's awesome. Like, and it's all about like energy exchange, and she can't quite talk properly because everyone's got different languages, but everyone's kind of drawn to her. And then she's got this really gorgeous, like, and she's got quite detailed sex scenes that's very pleasing. And I drift into her and out of her. Like, I haven't picked up this book for ages. I'll go through phases. I used to spend hours and hours just reading. And I just don't get time anymore. So it's a real shame. But I love it's like a guilty pleasure. It's like, oh, I should be researching rather than reading fiction. And I don't know why I have that attitude.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we come back to it's that whole conditioning of this belief we have in society that you must be working all the time to be productive. But I think it's when you take that time to, just to simply enjoy a book and have pleasure from that. That in itself self restores your energy and then helps you to be more creative and. That thing. It was interesting as you're talking. The book that's also coming through that's been a real common one that's cropped up a lot for me, and I know for you as well, and a lot of other women. Is The Women Who Run with Wolves by Christine Pinkola. I can never say her name either. It's like a I think what we'll do at the end of the podcast, we'll list out these books in the description box as well so people can check them out.
I'll get writing them down actually, yeah.
Yeah, but as you're talking about the other author with the caveman kind of sort of thing, because I know the way that the woman runs with wolves, she draws on ancient like texts or stories and weaves it into how women are, today, the modern woman, and rewilding ourselves because we've become very, tight and intense and very in our masculine energy, and we've just forgotten to be wild and free and just woman, And she has a really beautiful way of she almost uses like poetry and stories to really just remove the layers and get to your wild, true nature. Because she said female humans are very similar to female wolves in how they nurture their young, how they protect their young, all of that kind of primordial. Yeah, it's a very interesting book. Have you read it at all yet, Amanda?
Yeah, I have. The awful thing is it was given to me as a gift, and I found it really heavy reading because they're like fable stories that then you have to interpret. And it was like, and then I actually came this. It's heartbreaking when I think about it for too long. I was in such a bad headspace with a toxic partner after the birth of my son. I detoxed and I got rid of this book, and my friend has offered to rebuy it. And I feel like, no, I should somewhere down the line repurchase this book because it's amazing. And it helped her when she actually did therapy through this book.
Wow.
I had this massive purge, and it's like, surely I wouldn't have thrown that book away. No, and I keep kind of looking for it in my bookcase because there's this weird thing that happens with my bookcase. It's like a mystical, magical bookcase, and I'm not losing my mind. If I go and look for a book, I spend 20 minutes looking for this book. I cannot find it. The other day, bang, it was right there in front of me. It's like, I looked everywhere. I looked everywhere. So it's almost like, have I really got rid of that book? Because I'd love to pick that back up again. But yeah, the stories, I was always trying to find the meaning in the story before it finished.
And I looked at
I looked at the interpretation of it, and I'm like, I didn't see that. And I almost felt like it was a failure. I was a failure of the book. Because I couldn't see
God, no.
the message in the story.
Because I think it's one thing I found on my journey is that as you evolve in consciousness and awaken more and more and more, it's like certain books that you initially found really hard to get your head around. Because I found when I started my spiritual journey, the divine kind of sent me certain books at the time. I think it was like some Osho books. And I was
Yes.
like, some of these shit I was reading and I was like, could not get my fucking head around what he was teaching. I was like, what? And then I found when I went through some big awakenings and went into a whole new level of consciousness, when I went back to those books, it was like I could just read it so quickly and I just got it. And I'm like, oh, I get this now. So you might even find when you revisit, say, if you feel guided to revisit that book, Women Who Run with Wolves, you might find that parts that didn't make sense initially, suddenly you're like, oh, I get this now. And it just flows.
Yes.
So.
And that's why that's why it surprised me that I got rid of this book, because I usually hold on to my books and like the pleasure to reread them. Another author I've got a whole series is, I always pronounce this wrong as well, but I say Paulo Coelho.
Oh, yeah.
The first book, The Pilgrimage. Is it Pilgrim?
Yeah, it's about that boy that goes on the sheep farmer or something. I just remember it being a really good story.
Oh, The Alchemist, sorry. Yeah, The Alchemist.
Yeah.
That again is like a game changer. It's like the book. If you meet someone spiritual or they're just starting the journal, they go, and you're kind of gauging where each other's at, you go, have you read that book? And it's like, if you've read the book, you're in the club. You understand what I'm talking about. And yeah, The Alchemist, that is a life changer. And then the rest of his books, I actually bought them. I bought the whole series there on offer when I went traveling to Spain. And yeah, again, it's like he takes you on a journey. It's not just a fictional story. It's weird. It's like he literally changes your consciousness, so it's never the same again. It's bizarre. And then you can reread that same story and then get another clue or another insight. Is it the 10th Insight? And maybe another author. The 10th Insight is another one that's really, really spiritual. And that's been turned into a book as well.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's like if you've read that book, then you get where I'm coming at. It's like, yeah.
It's like awakening. It's like Eckhart Tolle's books, The Power of Now and the New Earth. I found they're also powerful books to shift consciousness as well. It's like, I'll never forget when I read The New Earth. I was literally just at the beginning of my spiritual awakening journey. This is probably, over a decade ago now. And my mum actually gave me that book out of nowhere. She's almost like God uses my mum as my channel. Like anything the divine wants me to read, it like sends it through my mum. And she she's never read any of these books, but she goes, I saw it and I knew I had to get it, but I think it's for you. And I remember literally reading The New Earth, and I had this massive awakening and shift of consciousness. And I remember I came out of my bedroom and I went into the lounge room, and there was one of those Dr. Phil shows on. And there was this guy just in this drama. And I remember for the first time in my life, I felt this incredible stillness, this incredible peace. And in that moment, I watched this Dr. Phil show and thought, that guy is completely mad in his ego. Like it was this profound. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I could just see the ego, like in all of us and myself. And it was this incredible awakening, and just how he simplified the teachings of Jesus and Buddha, and just made sense. So I find his books are very beautiful gifts of consciousness.
Yeah, and have you read, there's another series, they're called Conversations with God?
Yeah. Oh, is that Neale Donald Walsh?
Yes. Yeah,
because I met him a few years ago at a Hay House conference, and he did some really interesting talks, and I always kept thinking, and he talked about how he started channeling these books one night when he was in a very dark place. And I've been meaning to get those books, but I never have. So you've read them? Are they good?
I've got them, yeah, and I was reading them when I was in my early 20s. So I was very kind of, I was open-minded, but very skeptical, like, oh, what's this then, the critique was in there. But it just flowed. The thing that stood out for me, so the way he writes it like question and answer. So it's like, what is the meaning of this? Like he's literally having a conversation. What is the meaning of this? And then you get the answer. When you read the freaking answer, you already know it. It's like, I knew that. I'm getting goosebumps. You literally go, but I knew that. And it's almost, for now I can look back on it and go, I think he's talking to the God that's within all of us, which is why we can resonate and go, wow, that's so beautiful. And it feels like home, because you go, yeah, I knew that already. But when you read it in black and white, it's so powerful.
Wow, I'll have to get it. Yeah, because it's been popping up a fair bit. And I just, yeah, it's one of those things that it keeps showing up in the universe. It's like, are you going to friggin' read this yet? And you're like, yeah, I'll get around to it. Because that would happen with the Women Who Run with Wolves book. It literally, like, people kept throwing this book at me, or it kept coming up in all my stuff. And I was like, okay, I get the message. I got to read it. Another one for us women out there, especially if you're in a witch's waking up or you want to really connect with your cycles and your magic, I really highly recommend Lisa Lister's books. I think I've mentioned her previously. She wrote Witch, Code Red, Love Your Lady Landscape. She's a witch in the UK. I just love her work. She writes beautifully, and she just she's all about, talks about everything about wombs and pussy power and the menstrual cycles. Like, that's her job. And it was like, I think one day she's talking about when people ask, what's your profession? And she's like, I just talk about pussy all day. She just owns it. But she's an incredible healer, an incredible witch, and I just love her authenticity and how she writes. So yeah, I highly recommend Lisa Lister, Witch, and Code Red, and Lady Landscape. Love Your Lady Landscape. Really beautiful books.
I am scribbling these down as we go. And that's an awesome segue. It's almost as if we're psychically linked, Ellen, to my gorgeous book that I went to the bedroom for, which is Urban Tantra by Barbara Carrellas. Now, a girlfriend put me onto her when this was, again, way before I even studied Tantra. It's like, I've always known. Because our business, I called it Sacred Sexuality, and it's got here Sacred Sex for the 21st Century.
Love it.
And I know she's actually done a few books, and I've been dying to get my hands on them. She's actually, the last I've heard, her last partner was female. Oh. So she's really, you shouldn't pass any judgment, but it's like, ooh, she's got a lady lover. Because I'm going to tell you this. I had a massage client many moons ago in Sydney. She was awesome. She was like the woman. Have you ever met older women, and you go, I want to be you when I'm older. Yeah. I honestly want to be you when I'm older. And that's lovely, darling. And she had got married, had like 3 kids, and then divorced him and became a lesbian. And she didn't have a partner at the time, but she had this beautiful cat. And she said, oh, Amanda, because as we got to know each other over time and I kind of opened up about my sexuality, she said, honestly, women just, they're so much better in bed. You just have the best orgasms with another woman. And I was like, I love you, I adore you. And she was a speaker or tutor, I don't know what the right, lecturer, sorry. She's a lecturer at university. So she was highly educated. And you know what came to me? I was really just scrolling down all these books that are just off the top of my head. I had to just mention, I did a live video yesterday. I had a bit of a rant on the fact that I had discovered that connecting with other people on other chakra levels, so it's not just your sacrum, it's not just the sexy, physical attraction. It's not just your heart center. That's pretty open. I'm a pretty loving person. I can see past most things. But intellectually, that intellectual stimulation and that meeting of the mind is so, so important to me. And I just kind of went for it about this guy I was seeing. I was like, I tried to not make it about him, but I was like, if you can't even educate yourself, you don't even know what a book looks like. And I was like, I have a freaking bookcase. And if I had all my books over from England, I'd need a second one. Like, there's no excuse for it. Like, there's so much joy and pleasure that comes from education and wisdom. And now we have the internet at our fingertips. There's no excuse for bad behavior, just scrolling on Facebook, looking at crappy videos. And he said to me one day, he said, oh, this is what I do, just looking at, shit. And I just thought, you just turned me off in the biggest way ever. Like, I want a geek. I want someone who can meet me with the mind. And you don't have to be super, Einstein. But, I just don't understand, like, where I come from loving books, how you can not love books, or find it intimidating or scary. Or if you're nearly 50 years old, how have you not educated yourself? How have you not pushed yourself out of your comfort zone and gone, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to read a book. And actually might like it and learn something.
I think it starts at a young age as well, like getting your kids to start reading young. Because I know every night now I'll read my son his books, and he's got into the habit now of, reading. And I think they talk about the importance of, especially from a young age, is reading out loud to your children. And then they develop that interest and habit. Because I have noticed as well, like some people you meet, if they haven't had that, they've just got no interest or engagement with books. They have their other ways, and it's it's interesting. It's even just you mentioned just a moment ago, Amanda, about obviously this ex-partner not being able to meet you on that intellectual level. And it was interesting, and not pushing the boundaries and moving forward, because there was a woman I met once who's, like you were saying, an older woman that you think, I want to be like you when I'm older. And she's this wise witch, and she said to me, I'll never forget it, and she said, Ellen, I'm coming to the end of my life, and there's two types of people. There's those people that push in 5 areas, intellectually, emotionally, education, physically, and then I never remember the 5th thing of things, but it was basically in these 5 areas of life, if you grow and evolve through them, challenge yourself through those things, by the time you get to the end of your life, you'll have a deep well of richness to draw on. Whereas she said, if you don't push yourselves in those areas, when you get to the end of your life, which was what she was seeing in a lot of her friends that kind of just settled, hadn't really grown, hadn't really done anything or changed anything, they get to the end of their lives and they have all these regrets. And I thought that was a really interesting perception of things. So it's never too late to start educating yourself, pushing the boundaries. It can be scary because I think people get scared, but it's being uncomfortable is where our growth is.
Oh, definitely. And, I nearly said to you today, it's just today, in fact, of like, why didn't I do this sooner? Every single stage or step that I've been afraid to push through, I've always looked back and gone, I should have done that sooner. I should have moved to Australia sooner. I should have done that course sooner. I should have left that guy sooner. You just think, And I've personally, I've always had this, urgency of my lifetime. It's like, there's too many things I want to do and not enough time. And actually coming away from that headspace and saying there is enough time, everything will, come to fruition at the right time, divine timing, right? But also just that appreciation. And I say to people, I can't wait to be an old lady. And it's not that I want my life to suddenly flash forward. It's the fact that will be a real gift, not to die young, have a blessing and go, wow, I've had such a rich, fulfilling life. I've done all the things I've wanted to do. I have no regrets. I've jumped out of airplanes. I've done all these crazy stuff. And even sometimes in bed, I lie there and go, God, I love my life. I have done so much already, and I'm only 40. It's awesome. And on Facebook today, you'll hate this. I did it for a laugh. I've got this really stupid profile picture on at the moment just to make people laugh. And I put on there, I am so in love, and then a big space, and I was like, with ... because people are like, oh, who is it now? And I've just gone, myself. Because I feel like I'm finally at that place of, I'm just so happy and oozing love, and I don't need anyone else to reciprocate that. And this is just such a good place to be. And then most people will look at that and go, oh, here we go, she's batshit crazy. I don't really get what she's going from. Why doesn't she just settle down and find someone? And it's like, because I'm trying to, poke you with a stick and make you think. Do you really need someone if you're really not that happy and fulfilled? Aren't you better off on your own and progressing? And but this Urban Tantra book, going back to books, it was a real base introduction that really got me interested, not only with practical exercises. There's one chapter that jumped out that I do on my course. It's not supposed to be a selling up tool, but it's tantric BDSM. And myths about BDSM, because I've had, I don't know if you have found this, Ellen, when you're designing a course, it's almost like this is what the idea is that I want to deliver, and this is what I want to give. As soon as I sort of published and started promoting my website, there's one course that everybody seemed to be interested about. So I went, so that's where I'm supposed to go then, is it? Okay. Which is the BDSM. So it's trying to, I like to think of trying to be a bridge, and it is about myth busting. But it's what people's preconceptions are, and bringing this beautiful, holistic, wholesome, healthy Buddhist perspective into that. So that's why I've been desperately trying to reread this book, and she's so easy to read. Barbara Carrellas, she's an awesome lady. I'd love to meet her one day. She's very, very interesting.
That's because I think that especially those things around, sex and sexual energy and tantra and all those sort of things, it's like, because sexual energy has been demonized along with the goddess, along with the female form and pleasure and playfulness. It's kind of been labeled as this bad, evil thing by, the the big religious whatever. But it's like sexual energy is one of the most powerful creative energies in this world. It creates life, it creates art, it creates beauty. And I noticed when I used to live in the Middle East, and I started waking up and I was reading a lot of tantric books and energy and how energy circulates, and it was fascinating stuff. And when I lived in the Middle East, I saw how sexual energy was so suppressed that when it becomes suppressed, it becomes perverted. And then you get things like, people harming women and children, harming the environment, harming themselves, alcoholism, drug addiction, and this, it was like, and the way they kind of then treated women, it was like, what the fuck? And it was interesting as well because I was a, white, tall, blonde Western woman. A lot of the time when I've gone to Middle Eastern countries in Southeast Asia, they instantly assume I'm a Russian prostitute. And, it's just like, the amount of times it was like, what the hell? And Mum says, because I've got high, big cheekbones or whatever, so it looks a bit Slavic. But it was like, this is really interesting. But it was this demonization of the female form and the goddess. And so when you look at sexual energy, that's part of the divine feminine energy of our being, which is in both men and women alike. And I think when you work with that energy in a healthy way, you can birth and create incredible things. Whereas when we suppress it, it gets distorted and comes out in sick and toxic ways, especially like abuse and things like that.
Do you know what's so funny? I'm watching this Netflix series at the moment called Taboo, and it's set in old England.
Oh, I just finished watching that.
Oh my God! Isn't it amazing? Oh my God, I know, right? Because you know why he's hot? Because he constantly keeps displaying these acts of kindness. He's like, buy her some flowers. He's really gruff and, that's another podcast.
The Tom Hardy podcast.
Oh my gosh, hello. But again, like, it's disgusting how we used to treat each other. Like, I'm talking about slave trade and again, like sex is always for sale. But yeah, like, minors, and then you've got the elite class who would completely exploit that and expect whatever they wanted. And it's sickening. And there's one line, okay, I don't know if you remember, there's a chemist that's in there. What's his name now?
Oh, yeah, Tromleroy or something like that.
Yeah, and, sorry. There we go. Yeah, that's it. So, I forgot his, James Delaney, walks in on the chemist banging this woman, and he hasn't ejaculated yet. And he turns around to James and he said, if a man doesn't ejaculate the semen, then it turns to poison up into his mind. And he's like, okay, ejaculate then. Has your mind turned to poison? It's like, is this so absurd? But you look back at the medical practices and leeches, they used to use leeches for things, and the stuff they used to come up with before they had grave robbers, grave diggers who would, have to try and dissect the bodies, because that's the only way that they were allowed to do it. The amount of rubbish or the theories that we had in our minds, like, maybe mercury will help to cure something, but they were completely guessing. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing. All the things that they would cure and diagnose madness. And, it just highlights, I can't watch it without seeing all these other messages like, oh, look, that's our sexuality again, and that's the suppression, and that's the repression. And it's not all, well, I assume that it comes from the pagans and the Christians, and then Christianity took its roots in England, and it stemmed from there. I can't just blame religion, because there's not a lot of religious connotations in the film. Yeah. But that's the basis of England, is that they're all Christians, and they saw James this is key here. Now, James, he must have inherited these empathic abilities. He uses magic. He uses ritual. He has tattoos. He's from Africa, where he's learnt to dance. If you look at men African dancing, and they stomp their feet, they ground their energy. They're really in tune and connected with nature, which is seen as pagan. And he's just casted off, or he's cast off as what's the word they use? Like a beast, a menace, because he doesn't have class.
The devil.
Yeah, he doesn't have etiquette. And it's like, actually, it's a whole different culture and tribe that are connected, and women are appreciated because they go around without bras. They don't wear bras. They don't even know what a bra is. There's no, what's the word? Not just paedophilia, but where, you know, what's the word called? I've stumped for words. Where the system doesn't work. Like there's abuse sexually because we're all taught to cover up, and we mustn't look at things, we mustn't expose things, and it goes from one extreme to the other. If we just actually have more naked, and like, you know, and back in the Roman times, you know, they'd have orgies, and I don't know, it's just. And actually, I love Egyptian times because they did rever the female. And you look at Cleopatra, they understood her power. And it's kind of east and west. It's very, very interesting.
Because I know the topic today is on books and stuff, but obviously we've veered a bit to shows and that, because I'll add to that shows to watch as well. There's one that came out recently. It's been interesting since 2017, seeing the divine feminine resurrect, and a lot of now shows are coming out about women and you know, the parts of female society that have been removed from the history books and things like that. And there was an interesting one where they went on a historical journey to see, because pre-Christianity, pre-churches and all the rest of it, when they went back into archaeology, they found that a lot of tribes all over the world that had no connection with each other used to create female clay forms, and their god was a she. And then they noticed over a specific period of time, there was I can't remember the exact date in human history, but they were talking about this specific date was they started to notice the rise of the ego and the masculine form, and it started to shut out the feminine. It started to basically remove her, and then the god became this big nasty dude that if you didn't do what he wanted you to do, you'd be zapped with a lightning bolt. And you can see it in all these ancient texts and in the rocks how the change went from the big mother, the mother god, and the she, which she's both feminine and masculine, the great birther of all life, suddenly got down into just this little dude. Like, it was really interesting to watch. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the show, but it's on Netflix somewhere. I think it's like, the goddesses or something like that, or the golden goddesses or something. But yeah, and archaeologists.
Yeah, and that if this is really good. If you're really into this and the magic and power of the goddess, this is by it doesn't have it just says Knight. Gareth Knight. Magic and the Power of the Goddess. So interestingly, written by a guy. Magic and the Power of the Goddess. And it actually talks about initiation, worship, and ritual in the Western mystery tradition. And he addresses this. And also the fact that we have Christian pagans. Like, there is an overlap. It's not just one extreme or the other. And as you were just talking about, on a global scale of, coming from matriarchal to then patriarchal, it almost feels like somewhere down the line that all had to happen. It was part of some grand design that we kind of had to shift in order to explore all of that, in order to then come back to that in a more balanced way. Because really, nothing is healthy if it's either one extreme or the other.
Exactly.
So maybe so we're in this massively heavy feminine divine, and that was feared. It's like, she's a woman. She's got too much power. Yeah,
she's the dark.
And they saw that like Mother Nature had so much power. Let's take that back. And now, we've just gone, no, that's way too toxic. And just on a note with nature, and they're talking about the bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. And so many people I've known, especially since I am a foreigner in this country, everybody says, oh, you've been backpacking, have you gone to the Great Barrier Reef? And I always say no, because I want to protect it. I don't want to go and visit it because I don't want to destroy it. And now it's on TV. This is 9 years later. It's on TV and it's being bleached. It's, being eroded. And we really need call to action to look after it. And again, that comes back to the feminine principles of, look, if we're just going to just ignore it and just think it's not happening, or we're actually going to take action and help the divine feminine and say, look, this is visual as to what's happening off this gorgeous coast. Like, it's dying. The corals are literally dying. Like, what are we doing? So I went off tangent there. the goddess and Mother Nature, but I feel so strongly. And I was thinking about something else. Because there's so much, especially in these Netflix series, about Christianity and heaven and, being a good person. And I caught myself going, why I'm going to go to heaven? Not that I really believe in a heaven or Valhalla or whatever it is, but if there is a heaven, I know I'm going there because I split up my recycling and I make an effort to take my single-use plastics to Coles. You think, because every single action, every single moment of every single day is that intention of, I'm helping the divine, I'm helping Mother Nature, I'm helping not pollute, I'm helping feed our little possum who sleeps up on the roof there. We've now got a black cat that comes to visit us because our security cameras picked her up. We're living with all this nature on our land, and we go, okay, I haven't got a compost bin, but any scraps of food, I'll go and put in the garden. We've got bush turkey, and it was this what's it called? Like the season. So there's this big fat female that she came up, so I was deliberately feeding her. I researched what kind of food she eats, and now her baby comes up to eat, and it's just such a gorgeous reward of like, oh, now the baby comes here, and beautiful. Passing that education on to my son so that the next generation can be conscious and aware. Because really that's what it all comes down to. All of these books, all this wisdom, all the knowledge that we are trying to inspire and use ourselves for practical living. I'm going to take a breather. Over to you. I'm done. It just comes through, doesn't it? When you channel spirit, it's like, ooh, okay, I've got to get all that out. It's done.
Beautiful. All right. So should we wrap the show up now today with all of that information? Awesome information.
Absolutely. I have been scribbling these books and their authors, so all the listeners can go and have a look to any that they're drawn to. One more Netflix series, I'm actually going to be taking notes on it because every single sentence I was like, oh, that's amazing. And it's called the Principles of Pleasure. And it's women coming out talking about sex, and I'm like, yes, isn't this so, like we were born in the golden age. We were ready for this. Like, we were born so that we could be going, finally we're talking about sex, we're making documentaries on it, we're getting sex toys out there, and we're talking about the fact that women are still being brought up in societies, in cultures, in families where, oh no, we don't talk about that. You just say, don't get pregnant. And it's like, and they don't know what a vagina looks like. We're not encouraged to even touch ourselves and look at ourselves. Where's the vulva? What does it do? And it's like, let's bust open of this, because when you're on the other side, it's awesome. It's very, very natural. You can't get anything more natural.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
So that's my task for today. The Principles of Pleasure. I've got to watch it. I force myself to watch it and make notes.
Awesome, beautiful. Did you want to close with a prayer today?
Would you like to?
I'm flexible. Do you feel like there's something coming through that you want to say, or?
No, honestly, there was such a big rush at the end there about Mother Nature, but maybe something to do with, on what has come through this week is honoring the divine feminine within myself and within the goddess within all of us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So maybe if we close our eyes and place your hands on your heart, And then just take a deep inhale up through the nose into your beautiful heart. And then exhaling out long and deep. We'll do that a couple more times, and then I'll just do a closing affirmation prayer. And we'll just inhale in again deeply, inhale a little bit more, and then just exhaling out long and deep, just grounding into your body, into the divinity of who you are. And then one more time, just inhaling in deeply, inhaling a little bit more, and then exhaling out long and deep. And just with your hands on your heart and your eyes closed, just repeat out loud or quietly in your own mind after us. I am safe. I am secure. I am supported. I am loved unconditionally in being who I was born to be. I am safe to be me. I'm safe to share who I am with the world. I am safe to give and receive pleasure. I am safe to create wealth and well-being. And I am safe to grow, evolve, and expand into new levels of consciousness. I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. All is well in my world. Thank you, and so it is. And then just inhaling in deeply up through the nose into your heart, inhaling a little bit more, and then just exhaling out long and deep, just letting go. And we'll just do that 2 more times. I always do like a set of 3 cycles because it's like the Holy Trinity. It's like inhaling in again deeply, inhaling a little bit more, and then just exhaling out anything that no longer serves you, letting go. And then one more time, just inhaling in deeply, inhaling a little bit more, and holding that for 3, 2, 1, and then exhaling out, just letting go, letting go. And sending love and blessings to everyone. And I hope these books and topics today, serve and inspire.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ellen. I will see you next week.
Lots of love. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.